We're back. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I just finished this episode of The Walking Dead: The One Who Lives. This is episode 4, and on this episode 4, I gotta say, it was kind of a knockout of the park as far as episode wise. Just a disclaimer: I'm a little sick, so if you hear if I might sound a little bit off, that's the reason why. But without further ado, let's go and get into it. Now, just to get into the spoiler-free part of the review, the episode it wasn't like a crazy amount of action in it, right? That's not what this episode looks like it was about. It was more of a bottle episode for both Rick and Michonne, and just basically diving into the ins and out of just kind of who they are now, right? Because I guess everybody came in with the expectation of, us, the audience, and both characters came with the expectation of when they would basically meet each other again and how it would go. And of course, if you've been watching the last few episodes, things ain't necessarily been going according to plan. So this episode is a real big. It's where things reach boiling point between the two characters. Now I gotta say, acting in this episode was phenomenal. Did not really knock it out the park. I would say she's my breakout character for this particular episode. But Andy Lincoln knocked it out of the park too in a very specific scene that almost got me, y'all. I'm not even gonna lie. When we get to the spoiler version part of this, of course I'll go over that. But yeah, that, if you know what scene I'm talking about, that one almost got me. As far as just kind of rating the episode, I would have to give it a solid. I would give it an 8. Now, the last episode I gave a 10 because I haven't seen anything better. Just kind of throughout the episodes of it, but I think the last one says a 10. I would give this a strong 8. Now, I would say the emotional or even the things that they're working out, in the way that they do work them out, top tier. If that was the only thing I was looking for the episode, then it'll be. I'll say that probably the top tier out of all of them as far as just the thing that the two characters are working out. But I'm an action buff too, so just since it was more of a slower episode, some of the things it didn't necessarily make it hit as hard as the episode that we saw last week. But it was I would think would be the most pivotal episode for the story so far. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the spoiler part of this. I usually do a synopsis on this part of the video, but instead I just want to go over like a couple of different scenes that I like, or big pivotal points that I like. The first thing I want to kind of touch on is that both of our characters in this are having a big fight. Now, I mean, when I'm saying they taking jabs at each other, they kind of taking jabs at each other. Now, the jabs they take it are on what I would call malicious. Is more along the lines that they just don't understand each other. So from Michonne's perspective, Rick, or the Rick that she loves and the Rick that she knows, was this Rick from the past, right? This was that guy who would do anything to fight for him and his family, and who was stronger than this. But the Rick that she had in front of her is really the kind of the same Rick that we saw when the Saviors came, right? Which is this person who's just kind of willing to go along with the flow, who almost shuts himself down and just kind of puts his head down because whatever's going on in the world is too tough, or he needs to do this in order to basically protect whatever else he has in. And it's a Rick that's kind of fearing the consequences of what's happening next and can't move forward. So while Rick is still kind of stuck into this state, Michonne is reaching her boiling point where she no longer has the time, or feel like she has the time, to basically trying to save somebody who don't want to be saved. I gotta go home. And it's hurting her even more is because she know who Rick was, and the person that she's seeing in front of her, although he looked like Rick, ain't the Rick that she know. Now, during they like conversation and that like them having a fights, and Michonne brings up the fact that Rick needs to basically write something to his kids and see since he ain't gonna come home, get a jazzy way, and or to his children. And Rick picks up on the word children as like plural, and Michonne has to come clean about RJ, which is the scene that I know us the fans was looking for because she held it back during that previous scene when he first brought her to the CRM. So she tells him about RJ and that he's probably 8 now, and we see like this disheveled Rick, and we think that this is gonna bring like the light that's gonna bring him back to of course where we need him to be to basically want to go home, but instead Rick decides like no, I gotta go back, and I don't know about y'all, but I was like what, which that's still kind of going into this whole fight thing because it still brings us back into this deeper fight. Now, as they kind of like going through this big fight, you see that each of the characters are. It's almost like they can't. It's almost like they hashing out everything they needed to hash out based off of the previous episodes, and Michonne is basically letting them have it. So you want to go back, like you want to go back instead of going and see these kids, whatever, or go instead of basically you want to go. I thought you was a prison over there, but this is where you want to be, and it gets so crazy because it's like in the episode we're like I don't know if the previous episode I was expecting for the CRM to come hunt them, right, to come look for them, but no, the helicopter that they were in crashed. The CRM theoretically thinks that they're dead, right? A helicopter even. And this is a little bit later, which I'll talk to that part later. But the CRM thinks he's dead. I think they're dead, and you would think, okay, now this is now that Rick thinks that the CRM thinks he's dead, he's in the fear of them coming after him. He's gonna go, but he still doubles down on that he needs to go back. And Michonne calls this right out. She's like, "You lying? Something's going on. You lying?" And she actually walks away from him. She leaves. She walks away from him because she realizing that whoever this is, who's looking like Rick, ain't he almost like it's wasting my time. Like I got these kids and stuff. I'm taking time away from me being with my kids to come look for Rick, but Rick don't even want to come home, and it has been like 8 years. We're not the same people we were before. And she was looking for that man that she knew back there that previously had died on that bridge. Well, she leaves Rick. When I say she leaves, like she leaves the room that they're in. She's walking down the highway like she's leaving. And it comes to a moment where Rick is in front of the door and he hesitates to reach for the door, and you see that he's conflicted and scared. Everything in his body wants to go after Michonne, but whatever he's dealing with is keeping him from trying to make that step. But he does. He reaches out, he opens the door, he chases after Michonne. As he's chasing after her, another helicopter, CRM helicopter come in, blows up the other helicopter, and Rick jumps in front of her and like basically shields her from the blast. So you think like, okay, this is Rick making his choice to come back. No, not yet. Rick is still arguing with Michonne that he has to go back to the CRM, and she has to go, basically like she has to go away, right? And this is where I was kind of saying where they having this big fight and things started to get a little bit nasty. But like they talking and what's name, and he kind of throw it back on her. He said you left your kids to come to come chase me. You shouldn't have came. Basically, like you like what are you doing? You left your kids. What's name come out? You shouldn't came. And she was like basically like the Rick, like the Rick that I know and love would basically never say that to me. And you like, oh, yeah. And as the viewer, you just feel like, no, no, not our two people are fighting and saying things that they can't take back, and doing this irrevocable damage to their relations. Like, no. But when like once they get done with that part of the fight, they have to still kick it back in action because where that helicopter had crashed into the place is filling with zombies, but the place is also crumbling around them. So they start trying to leave and fight their way through the zombies, but you can see that they super out of sync. Like, and I really like that they did that touch where normally Michonne and Rick play off each other when they fighting. Now since they out of sync, they get in each other's way and they argue and stuff as they get in each other's way. Well, they then comes to a hallway and a chandelier from I guess that was hanging in like not a hallway but a stairwell. The chandelier that's hanging in the stairwell ends up falling and landing on Michonne, and it just has her leg trapped. So she's not hurt, but her leg is trapped, and the chandelier is so big that both her and Rick can't basically get it off of her. So the stairwell is starting to pile in with walkers, and Michonne is like, "Just leave me." And Rick's like, "No, I'm not leaving you." And and it's not like a super intense scene because like it's Rick and Michonne. They kill walkers for breakfast, but they're fighting off these walkers who are filling in this hallway while Michonne is trapped, and Rick is trying to pry loose this this chandelier. So she's like, Rick is what's name? Rick is like, nope, I just got to get these boats off. And you can see you can see just kind of from how Rick is working to get this off and killing these zombies at the same time that he loves it. It's never a case where he'll abandon her. I guess like in this, but he's like he would. He's not gonna leave her to die, right? He's willing to die for her if it's a case where they have to die. And it's like, well, wow, if you're willing to do all this to basically kind of, I guess, yeah, but she noticed like that. It's never anything in his mind that even considers the fact that he will leave her in this hallway, even though the hallway is filling up with these zombies, and he is fighting things off, and then I think she said like where he's like just go. He was like no, we like basically I'm like I would never leave you or whatever, and she was just like yeah good. I just needed to hear you say I just needed to hear you say it. And anyway, they get the chandelier off of him, and they fight their way. They actually fight their way back to the room that they previously had just left because I guess that part of the building hadn't started crumbling yet, and they started looking at each other. And you could tell like that fighting that they had, even they said a bunch of stuff that they didn't mean. And just kind of that moment where where he was basically helping trying to save her, I almost really lit that desire that these two people wanna be together. And they start going at it. Which, of course, Rick been trying to love on his woman this whole thing. So they ain't nothing new for us, right? But they start going at it. Now the next scene is as they're going at it, Rick and Michonne are like kissing and embracing or whatever, and Rick pulls himself back a little bit, and you see almost this in his face, almost like he's disassociating, or he's scared to proceed forward with her, almost because it's like this is overstimulating, this too much. Not too much in like the case that he don't want it, but too much as in you giving me back something that I can't lose again, right? And you see her, and I like that they did this all with no words. Like they just show like the basic connection between him and her, whatever. But where she, basically kind of reassures him, like almost like that is okay, and they continue on. Well, after the scene, they snuggled up and they still what's his name, and he's asking about RJ now, whatever, and she's telling him like of course, hey, he's like you, and like he looks like you, and just kind of tell him like how they stay both stubborn and a lot and what alike and whatnot, but his mindset is still I got to go back. So she when she sees that his mindset is still like I still got to go back, she basically puts on, I guess, just like the fire as far as kind of like, let's figure this thing out now. Mind you, the room that they're in right now is starting to like crumble around them. And she touches on, and she's like, no, we're not leaving this room, like we're not leaving this bed basically until we figure out what we doing, right? So she just kind of broke down, like asked him, like what are you, like what did they do to you? You know, like come on, you could tell me, like what did they do to you? And oh, this one right here, y'all, this one right here almost, it almost broke me. I ain't gonna lie, but he said they took Carl away from him, and he was like, and and I was like, no, no, let me segue a little bit. Like, let me go off script a little bit. Carl is the one death in The Walking Dead that I just can't get jiggy with. I can't. It's the one I'm still not over. Because for me, Carl was supposed to be the future of what the of just like that's supposed to be Rick's future, right? So Rick is doing all this stuff to basically Carl and protect Carl and Judith and just everybody, but Carl is the person who he's been trying to protect this whole time. So when Carl died, for me it was like, well, man, what are we fighting for? You know, what is this? Because like the whole, what's our future looking like? Because it would be a case where if Rick died saving Carl, it's like, okay, that's what you think is gonna possibly happen sometime in the future, but now Carl's gone, and it's like, here's a man whose whole purpose was to protect his family, has lost the last real member of his family, and I'm talking about bloodline, right? Because we say Judith looked like Shane Moore each day, right? but you know what I'm saying, the last real bloodline of his family, and where he said like it just brought that back. So she's like, so he kind of elaborates more. He go basically like that they took Carl away from him. Basically, when he was trapped here, the thing that kept him going was was basically his dreams of Carl. And in his dreams of Carl, Carl had forgiven him for his passing, and he was basically working that out, but he started not having those dreams about Carl anymore, right? And it kind of is a callback to the previous episode where Michonne talked to the artist, and the artist said that he wasn't able to, that they could never get the face right when he was talking about Carl or whatever. So it just kind of lets you know that Rick is forgetting Carl's face, or he's forgetting Carl as far as like his face. When now he said, then I start having dreams about you, and where I'm just kind of fall in love and whatever. But then I saw lose my memory of that. And then basically where you've basically come back in my life, if it's a case where basically he realizes that he can't lose her, you know, because like this is the one person that he loves. He doesn't feel that he can handle losing Michonne. And out of sight, out of mind type thing, if she's gone somewhere, and let's say in Alexandria and he's here, he can just keep believing that she's alive out there somewhere, instead of basically maybe one day having to face the fact that maybe she dies before him, because he don't think he can survive that, or he don't think he can survive losing the ones that basically he love like that anymore. Which, if you ever look at Rick's track record, Rick tends to have a whole mental break whenever like somebody dies. So like if you look at when Lori died, Rick had a whole little mental break where he was seeing her and stuff. Uh, if you look at when Carl died, he was going through it, but the only thing I guess that kind of kept him, I guess, even halfway still like together was the fact that he had Michonne, and the fact that Carl left so gracefully as he did, where he's basically like, "This is not your fault. This is what I want you to do." It's almost like he took Carl's mission as being his morality as far as going forward. So where he's looking at this, where you the last person that I love, and if I basically really give in to what you're saying, and somehow you die, he don't know if he can live with that. So she hit him with the real thing. What do you think Carl will want? Which I was like, now what do you think Carl will want? You know, and basically that he will want you to go be with your family, you know, and and basically be that person that we know you can do, and we can basically do that together. So you see, like after that scene, Rick is I don't want to say it too soon, but he's Rick, where it's like now he's basically instead of just trying to survive, he wants to live now, right? He wants to live. And if you ever seen the other previous episodes of The Walking Dead where Michonne and Rick tend to come to this issue multiple times, Rick tends to sometimes shut down to be like, I'm just gonna basically survive, and then Michonne tends to be like, we can't just survive. That happens when they were first getting to Alexandria. Rick was really against going to Alexandria because he didn't believe it. Michonne was the driving force to be like, we have to try this because we can't just keep surviving. We need to basically learn how to live. But they after that, of course, you see that Rick is kind of basically a new Rick. And also a nice little touch that I like in the episode was like, as soon as they got to whatever the little apartment that they in, Michonne instantly takes off the CRM stuff to switch it out for just regular clothing. Rick doesn't do this until after they have this whole moment where he actually works this problem. And then the next thing you see that he's out of the CRM stuff, and him and Michonne is like escaping the building for a few hours and leaving on just like a little like brighter type future. So it was a good pivotal episode for, I would say, just kind of working out what's going on between their relationship and putting our characters back, realigning our characters back to where they need to be. So overall, I'll say it was top tier, y'all. All right, guys, well, that's going to do it for my review of this episode of The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. If you like this video, please hit that like button. Also, subscribe to the channel. And then, of course, tell your friends about us. We out here. Until next time, I'll see you in the next one. Deuces.